Hi everybody, as you can see it's still autumn in the garden here. Loveliest time of the year, the time poets just love, just something about the, I suppose, melancholy aspect of it. But we're not going to be melancholy, we're going to be totally chilled and relaxed. And today we're going to work on our hamstrings, and this is building on, this is the third of our little videos, so we're working up from the feet. So our first video was the feet, and you can refer back to that in Feet First. Second video was on our ankles and our calf muscles, and I might do a really quick reprieve on those before we move on into the hamstrings, because that's today's job, working with some of the biggest muscles in your body, that complex of muscles that run from your hip down to the back of your knee. So all that full length of the back of your thigh. And for most people, particularly if you sit a lot, we have got short, tight hamstrings, and you can see what that will do. If your hamstrings are short and tight, they're going to pull on your back. They're going to do all kinds of unpleasant things to the rest of your body. So the reason I'm doing all of these videos in sequence is that all of them, all of those parts need to be working in harmony with the other parts. So that's exactly why I'm doing all of these videos. And just when I think about it now, I'll do the reprise of the of the ankles and calf muscles in the next video, when we'll be doing a lot of standing. So you can refer to that. Today I'm just going to work on your hamstring muscles and work on how we might strengthen them, and then how we might work on length of hamstrings. So we're going to begin them on our mat. And as you can see, I'm still sitting on my bolster, and I would advise you to have one as well. And there are a couple of things that will be really useful for this class. And one of them is a strap or a belt, or it could be a scarf. So I'm using a yoga strap, and I'm going to use it to help me with my hamstring stretches. And the other, this is just the belt of my dressing gown. There's a little bit of give in it, which is kind of nice. But you could use a big long scarf or anything like that. Probably you want to be a thinnish scarf, really, because you don't want a lot of bulk around what you're using. These are really, really useful for what we're going to be doing next. So we're going to begin, let's see, we'll begin seated, I think is probably the best way to begin this one. So beginning seated. And when you're sitting like this, I want you to sit right up so that you can feel your sit bones. In yoga, we have this way of talking about what we call fleshing out your sit bones. So if you've got any little bit of, let's say, surplus muscle back there, you might just want to push it a little bit out of the way and get used to doing that. And then I want you to flex your toes back towards you. So flexing, remember this is dorsiflexion. So when you flex your toes back towards you, just look what's happening to your kneecaps. They're lifting, your quads are switched on, and we're stretching our calf muscles, but we're also stretching our hamstrings here in this position. So we're going to begin. So I have my strap or my handle, or the strap of my belt of my dressing gown there. We're going to lie down on our mats, but always in this class I'm going to be referring to something we're going to be doing in the future, because the body is such a knitted thing. So I want to lie down on my mat, but I want to lie down on it and make that lying down useful. So I'm going to tuck my chin to my chest, and I'm going to roll down. So you can say you get this far and you think, oh, I'm going to flop from here, because you can feel this is your core holding you here. If you want a little bit of help, just hold on with your hands to the sides of your thighs. I'm just going to push myself down a little further so I'll be on the mat. I'm going to hold on to the sides of my thighs, and I'm going to lower myself down. If I don't need it, I don't need it. And then I'm just going to roll my body all the way down to the mat. And that's a little bit of extra work on my core. So from here, the best way to warm up your hamstrings that I know is to hug your right knee into your right shoulder. So hug it right in. So I'm thinking right shoulder now rather than the midline of your body. So we're hugging the knee in so that your ankle, your knee, and your hip are all in the same line. And just as I'm down here and I'm thinking about it, I want you to rotate your ankle. And this is something really useful to do when you're here. So we're getting into the movement of the ankle joint. I want you to place your right hand gently on top of your right knee. Take your left hand and bring it behind your right thigh. And I want you to straighten out your leg. And I want you to bring it to fully straight. I don't want to bend in the knee. I want it fully straight. And now if you run your hands, both sets of fingers down that hamstring, these are the muscles we're going to work on. And you can feel they're fully switched on. Now place your right hand back gently on top of your right knee, your left hand behind your thigh, and I want you to bring your heel back to the back of your thigh. And now you can feel your hamstring. Your hamstrings are all soft and switched off. Now I want you to stretch them out again, and then bend and straighten. Now I want you to bring it to fully straight, then bend and then straighten. And one more time, bend and straighten. And this is called nerve flossing, or just activating the whole of the hamstring muscles. Now I want you to hold on with both hands to the back of your thigh. Find just the middle of the back of your thigh, and then slowly bring that right leg towards your right shoulder. So my foot is flexed back towards me, so you can see my toes are turned down towards my shins. My knee is straight. So if I have my leg at that angle, my knee at that angle, I am not stretching the full hamstring. So if I want to work the full muscles, then I absolutely need to get into straight knee. If in the beginning you don't have a straight knee, it means that your hamstrings are quite tight. And so if you continue to do this little exercise that I've been doing, closing and opening and closing and opening, you're gradually going to get there. And I'm using the position of my two hands to help me with that, but it's very gentle. So I have my right hand to the kneecap, being careful with your kneecap. I have my left hand to the back of my thigh. I'm just straightening out my leg. Just gentle little pressure on the knee, holding the back of your thigh. And then hold on behind your thigh and gradually take your right toes towards your right shoulder. Now I want you to point and flex your foot, point and flex, and point and flex. And I want you to keep that leg straight and then slowly lower it all the way down to the mat. So we make use of our transition poses always. I'm going to stay lying in this position and turn my attention to my left leg. So we bring the left knee into the left shoulder. So holding on with both fingers, sets of fingers interlaced across your shin. If you have nice long arms, you can wrap that arm around the shin and get it in even tighter, so nice tight compression. And then you're going to rotate your left ankle. So these two poses that I've just been doing, this knee in and this knee in, these are referred to, and if you'll excuse the indelicacy, as wind relieving poses. So if you get up in the morning and you feel kind of bloated, and I don't know, you've been eating something that's out of your normal repertoire of food, and you feel very bloated in your tummy, this is really useful because it works on the ascending and descending colon. And so useful thing to do. So holding in tight. If your elbow won't go around there, you're fine. Just hold on with your hands. Now, right hand on top of the left knee. This is always very gentle. The knee does not appreciate, the kneecap particularly does not appreciate being pushed or shoved or, you know, sort of put out of its comfort zone. So be careful with it. Left hand to the back of your left thigh, and then you're just, oh, lovely click in my knee joint there. And those clicks don't matter. In fact, they're a good sign. As long as they don't hurt, of course, because they're just sending messages that I need more synovial fluid around my knee joint. So remember, bring the leg to straight, try and eliminate the knee joint, try and eliminate that slack in the knee or in the hamstring. And then one more time. Then hold on behind your thigh and bring that straight leg towards your left shoulder. Then you release your hands and slowly lower your leg down. Now, always being careful how you come up out of this position. So press your elbows into the mat, your palms to the mat to lift up. And this is where your strap comes in really handy. So strap or my dressing gown belt. So again, I'm going to lie down, but as always, I'm going to use my core to take me down. So I'm working on the strength of my core. Then I'm going to bend my right knee, wrap the strap around the ball of my foot. So the ball of your foot is just below where your toes are. I'm going to hold onto the strap with my right hand, keep my right shoulder on the mat, and I'm going to use that strap maybe to get my leg a little straighter. If you've got really loose hamstrings, you can probably hold on to your big toes with your fingers and then get even deeper into that stretch. So you don't have to be where I am, or you might indeed be a great deal further than I am in opening your hamstring. So this is a really, really good way of opening your hamstring. Hamstrings, they're plural. And then either releasing your belt, or your hand from your belt, or you're releasing your toes, and then you're going to slowly lower that right leg all the way down to the mat. Now I want you to bend your left knee, wrap the strap around the ball of your left foot, and then hold onto the strap with your left hand, right hand to the top of your thigh, and then slowly taking that leg towards your left shoulder. Remember, never take your leg doesn't come across the midline. When we're doing all of these things, we want to have the ankle, knee, and hip joint in the same line. You can advance this further by taking the head up, but that'll work on your core, and we're not really that interested in that today. So try not to bend your elbow if you're using the strap. Try and keep the elbow straight, and then just take your hand up. You may be able to shorten the belt as we go along. And then bend your knee, remove the strap, and slowly lower that left leg all the way down to the mat. Then I want you to put your elbows to the mat and your palms to the mat. And then we're going to swing our legs around, and we're going to try and do it on all fours. Something similar to it. Now I have a cushion here, and I think it might be really useful because, as I said, you do not want to be on your kneecap at all. We're going to be working on knees in, somewhere down along the line anyway, not the next video. So if I were, I have got a double mat here, so I don't need the cushion, but I might be tempted to use it because it's going to make myself much more comfortable. And I'm going to come into this stand. So I'm 4 square first, and then I'm going to inch my right foot forward, and I'm going to take my fingers down, and then I'm going to come back onto my heel. And see what's happening here now. I'm getting the same stretch, but I'm getting it from a kneeling position. And then I can come in and out of this. So fingertips to the mat. Now I have my legs what we call train tracked. So they're not, one on top of the other. I want that space here so that my knee, hip and ankle are again in the same line. So taking my fingers down and then sliding back. And my fingers are down just for balance, and slide back. And then we can advance this in all kinds of ways. So you can put your hands up and do it from that position. Okay. Or if we want to add a little momentum and upper body work into it, you can take your hands up. And then when we come back, you take your hands back. And when we come up, you take your hands up. And when we come back, go and take your hands back. And one last time, hands up, and then hands back. We're just going to hold that. So we're holding that in that nice long hamstring position. Then bringing your fingertips down, and you can take that foot back. And then we'll do it on the other side. So placing the cushion, and one tip about that back leg. So rather than being on top of your kneecap, just slide that back leg back a little bit so that you're just above the kneecap. Now, this means that you're getting quite a stretch here onto the hip flexor, and we'll be working on hip flexors, of course, in a future video after the quads. You're getting quite a deep stretch here. So if you don't want to be this far back, then square up a little bit, and then you take the stretch out of here. I like to come down into the hip flexor myself. So taking your fingertips down, and then straightening back. So if this is enough for you, you do not need to take your heel up. But then it's really hard to straighten your knee when your toes are on the mat. And that's because I do not have enough plantar flexion here, front of my ankle, to get that knee to completely straight. Whereas when I take my heel up, I can almost hyperextend the knee. So always in the beginning, take your fingers down for support, then shift your weight back, and then maybe take the toes up. If it's too much for you to take the toes up at the beginning, just keep the toes down. So the toes up makes it much deeper, and then I come forward to release it, and I come back to lengthen. Forward to release, and so when I release, then I'm getting the hip flexor stretch, which is a bonus of this particular stretch. And then I come back and lift up the toes and forward and back. And then if I want to do a little more, I can take my hands up to my knee and come back and forward and come back. And if I want to be, a little more dramatic about it and want to use my upper body as well, when I come forward, my arms are up, and when I come back, my arms are back. So I'm adding a little balance work into it here as well, opening up my shoulders, and of course we'll be working on the shoulders in a later video. And then to come back. And one more time, inhale to come up, and then exhale to come back. Take your fingertips to the mat and slide that left leg back. And we'll come to sit on our heels for a moment. So sitting down on your feet, and I have one more to do. Again, working with your hamstrings is really, really good, I think. For me anyway, it's something that is really important for the health of your whole body, particularly for the whole, what we call back chain of your body. So our last two moves for working on our hamstrings. So we're going to sit on your mat. And again, we're going to use the strap, or as you might, whatever you've got with you that's long and kind of narrow. And you're sitting up nice and tall. Remember, you sit up on what we call your sit bones. So you're sitting up nice and tall, so the back is really in a really good position. And I'm going to take the strap around the balls of my feet. Remember, balls of your feet are just below your toes, so you don't want it on the the midfoot, or you certainly don't want it on your heels, because we're using it on the ball of your foot so you can take your feet back into dorsiflexion. Remember what dorsiflexion is when you take your toes back towards your shins. So we're going to use the strap now to come forward, but there's a secret to coming forward correctly. So when you're coming forward, I would always stretch my upper body first. So I'm stretching my spine here, so I'm lifting my hands up and I'm pulling in my tummy. And then I'm going to come forward with my tummy pulled in. So I'm going to come forward and see the shape of my back. I'm trying to keep that shape in my back. I do not want to round down. And keep the shape in my back, because if you round your back, then you're putting your back into a very unhealthy position. So I'm going to pull in, I'm going to stretch up first, right? Stretch up, pull in your tummy, and then move forward. So you have that sensation of pulling in from here as you stretch back here. And now the strap is around the balls of your feet, and you're going to hold on to the strap and take yourself forward. Now, you're not going to bend your elbows and, make this all about your arms. You're going to just use the belt as a kind of an extension of your arms. I probably don't need it now because I've been working on my hamstrings. So what I would do is hook onto my toes or something like that to bring myself forward. But I think as a gradual way of getting into this, holding on to your strap is a really good idea. So try to keep my elbows straight. It's kind of hard for me to do that, but keeping my elbows straight, and then I'm leaning forward. So this is a hamstring stretch. It's also a really good stretch for your back, and it'll come in really useful when we're doing our back work. So we will be working on the spine in a later one of these videos. So again, just holding on to the strap, and I would just inhale to lift and then exhale to fold. It's always good to fold down on an exhale. And when you exhale, you can pull your tummy in a little bit further. And then when I come back up, I will always stretch up again. So just making the maximum use out of the transitions between one move and the other. And then taking your strap to one side. And a cute little way of coming from sitting on your bottom to coming onto your knees. So I would cross over my ankles, hold on to the front of my feet, and I would rock myself forward. And that's really helpful and useful, just to use those little techniques as a way of transitioning from one of our poses into the next. Now we're going to do a really common standard yoga pose, which is called downward facing dog. Okay, so to come into a downward facing dog, we're going to place our hands on the mat. So I want you to spread your fingers out and your thumb out, so you have a nice base here. So you're pressing into your fingers, backs of your fingers, so you're not taking all the weight on your wrists. Then you're going to curl your toes and you're up in downward facing dog. So I have my heels on the mat, but your heels may not be on the mat. If your heels are not on the mat, it means you've got tight hamstrings. So in order to work with that, I'm going to bend my right knee really deeply, press my toes into the mat, and you can see you're working on your feet here, and I'm going to press my left heel into the mat and lift my left kneecap, and then I'm going to reverse that. So now I'm pressing my left toes into the mat, my left knee is bent, and I'm pressing into my right heel and lifting my right kneecap, and I'm just going to pedal through these. So my head is hanging free, there's no pressure on my neck, and I'm just working backwards and forwards, lengthening out my hamstrings. And then I'm going to drop down onto my knees, and I'm going to come and sit on my feet. So that's our little sequence for our hamstrings. And I thought that for my next video, I would work on the quads, switching the front of your body. But I think because the glutes are the next thing up from your hamstrings, and because we've worked on our feet, on our calf muscle, ankles and calf muscles and hamstrings, I think I'll just go to the glutes next. And these are the largest muscles in our bodies, and also the laziest muscles that we've got going. So most of us, as we age, we have saggy bottoms and roundy tummies. So we need to really work with our glute muscles, and we can do it really simply and easily, even as learn how to use them as we walk, because most of us don't bother. Anyway, that's our hamstring sequence for today's video, and look forward to seeing you the next time, when we will reprise really quickly the hamstring moves and we will move on to the glutes. Until next time then, be safe and well, and see you then.